Well, good afternoon and welcome to Sports Doc at the University of East London, and here for the second day of the British Fencing Championships Senior Nationals. We've got 3 gold medal matches coming up. I'm Karen Bashir and I'm delighted to introduce you to Rob Caudron, who is going to be our expert commentator. 3 great finals coming up today, Rob.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me today, Karen.
Well, we'll come back to you in a very short time, Rob, but first off, we're going over to the stadium announcer who's going to introduce our first final.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our first final of the evening, the women's épée event. Currently fencing in France, so unattached, Mary Cohen. And representing Malvern Hill Swords Fencing, Danielle Lawson. We have referee Sarah Stacey and assessors Andy Lines and Phil Elliott. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The fencing will commence.
So again, the beautiful dulcet tones of John Milner introducing our fencers on to this finals piece. Epee, the simplest weapon to understand. It is hit and don't get hit. It's a point weapon. The whole body is target. The idea is to hit your opponent and not get hit. Fencing is broken up into 3 3-minute periods of activity, broken up by 1 minute of rest, where the athletes get to talk to their coaches, get a bit of tactical advice, and also take on some fluid. Rob, talk us through the strategy here of this weapon.
So much of épée is about making the opponent commit. Like you said, it's hit and don't be hit. And a lot of the time, it's going to be about who can induce a mistake from their opponent and then capitalize on that mistake to score. Either maybe making the opponent come in too close and not realize that they're at a distance where they can be hit, or making them commit to something and then scoring over the top of it, maybe counter-attacking or direct attacking over the top.
Well, we got a brief glimpse there of our referee, Sarah Stacey. She was testing the weight of the weapon. Rob, what's that all about?
So the weight is 750 grams, and the tip of the épée has to be able to hold that weight without depressing. The idea being that it's got when making a hit, the weapon has to produce enough force to be 750 grams or it won't register. So it's got to be not just a light touch, but an actual sort of meaningful hit.
You say meaningful. Now, I'm told that it effectively is the pressure that you'd need to apply to draw blood if you were fencing a proper duel. True?
Pass. I'll give you it. I'll give you that.
Sunday afternoon, thought I'd give you something to start off. But here, 0-0, with nearly a minute gone, we get our first hit. And épée, the only weapon where both fencers can score a hit at the same time, and it's called double.
I think. So I know both of these fencers reasonably well. I've worked. I saw Mary when I was out in Barcelona for the Women's Epee World Cup there, and she's a really strong sort of technical fencer. She likes to use the blade, and she likes to set things up either off of the blade or off of some kind of blade action. Danny Lawson works with John Rees up in Malvern, sort of my part of the country, and she just come back from the World Championships and the European Championships in Verona and Sochi. And Danny's much more, she looks for timing, she looks for distance. Danny's thing is if there's an opening, she's going to go. It's very much John Rees's approach to épée is if you see a chance, go take it and go fast. So going to expecting lots of really fast actions from Danny. And I think I expect Mary to be looking to work more off the blade, maybe trying to find a parry, maybe trying to get Danny to look for the blade or something before going.
Well, we know a lot of you were watching yesterday, our first of 2 days of coverage from the live championships here in the Sports Doc. And Dave Baker, it's taken me 1 minute and 43 seconds to say it's cagey, épée. The idea here is for the fencers to find a moment, find the distance, find the opening to score a hit without getting hit. And when they score doubles, you see both scores elevated. And really, at this stage, it makes no real difference. But as we get longer into the fight and closer to the end, doubles favour the leading fencer, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think doubles is an interesting one because there's two. I've heard two schools of thought on it. One is the idea that you get ahead and then you can double a fight out. But the other one I've heard is people saying, well, no, you can't plan for doubles, because as soon as you're doing that, you're inherently being reactive, and the timing on the epee timing on the box is so brutal that if you're being reactive, you ain't going to get a light on. So you always have to be looking for a single, but the double, but you'll take the double if it appears.
But we were talking yesterday about, I hate the cliche of being active whilst being passive. So you once you've got a lead in epee, as long as you're alive and you're alert, you can be risk averse. You don't have to press or take any risk.
And I agree with you that I think it's a fine line to tread between completely setting up shop and just looking to wear the time down, and looking to pick your moment and not take give anything away. I think you always have to be looking to try and score a point or be open to scoring. You can't just rely on the clock. I mean, if we actually look at this, so we're about to end the period, and the score is 6-4. So this is moving along at really quite quickly, particularly for an epee final, where you'd expect maybe a cagier scoring between the two of them. And if you look, it's been a lot of the hits has been playing to their strengths. So Danny is looking to work off of distance. She's looking to work off of timing. She's looking to create a mistake and then score over the top. And it's probably what John's going to be talking to her about. John always talks about distance and timing. It's everything that he talks about. Distance, timing, distance, timing, distance, timing. He's not too fussed about the blade.
John Rees, the coach there for Danielle Lawson. And down at the other end, Mary Cohen hasn't got a coach per se in her box, but I believe that's Kat Smith there, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it, definitely. And I think with Mary, you saw a few of her points. She's catching the blade in cart and then going through, or catching the parry. She wants to work off of the blade. It's very much the way that she was trained, the way she was brought up, and she talked about that with when we had her on the commentary in Barcelona. She was talking about scoring actions off of the blade, off of either finding an engagement, finding a beat, or finding a parry and wrapping up your opponent up and scoring. So there's a bit of cat and mouse here where Danny's not wanting her blade to get caught, because as soon as her blade gets caught, it's advantage with Mary. And then Mary doesn't want to commit to anything, because as soon as she looks for the blade, if it's at the wrong time, Danny's going to punish it and score.
Well, they're back underway here. Second period, potentially of 3. And the target score is, of course, 15 hits.
If you look there, there's a little movement from Mary as she comes forward, and over the top of it, as soon as her movement's finished, Danny just starts to go over the top as if she's going towards the arm. And that's the sort of hit that Danny Lawson loves to score. And that's really nice from Mary. So she goes for a little action, stops it short. Danny goes over the top, and Mary's waiting for it, scores the parry, and goes. It's very much cat and mouse at this stage. Mary's looking to make Danny commit to something so that she can wrap the blade up. And again, she makes Danny commit over the top of her short attack. And as soon as she does that, the blade's in position, Mary can take it. She's taken one down low and scored, she's taken one up high and scored. But everything she's doing, she's looking to catch the blade. At the moment, she's doing it through parries. With Danny, I'd expect to see her now to start changing up where she's attacking. So everything has been towards the higher target, but she's got a really good attack down towards leg and down towards foot. So I'd expect to see her starting to use that. Also, Danny's got a really strong flesh, and at the moment, Mary's taking quite a bit of time to set up. So she's pushing forward and stopping short. There we are, pushing forward, stopping short. I expect to see Danny look to attack into it, maybe drive into Mary's preparation as she's building.
Not a bad start to the second period for Danny Lawson.
I think it's probably a stronger start for Mary. 3 times in a row, she's been able to trigger Danny to attack over the top.
I understand that, but in terms of the score, she's closed it up. But there you see what you were talking about, where, in effect, Cohen will almost give away a couple of hits in order to gain 3 or 4, potentially.
Yeah, I think what she's managed to do is she knows exactly what she wants to trigger from Danny.
So all about setting up. A game of cat and mouse. One of the world's best epeists, double world champion Paolo Pizzo from Italy, told me it's a game of cat and mouse. And sometimes you have to be the best cat and the best mouse.
I feel like that would get really confusing for me really quickly.
The blank look on your face spoke a million words to me there, Rob.
I'm a cat person. That's a nice hit. So this time Danny triggers earlier, and she's been letting Mary just drop short and push towards the wrist, drop short and push towards the wrist. And this time, as Mary's arm comes out, Danny just takes the blade and goes straight away. It's a really nice hit and much, much earlier. So Mary doesn't have time to set up that stop and then draw the attack and take the parry. So it's a nice change of timing from Danny, much, much earlier.
So because there's no right of way in epee, the beating of the blades, it doesn't establish your chance to attack. But what it does do is it knocks your opponent's blade out of the way long enough to create an opening for yourself.
Yeah, and particularly for someone like Danny, where she is one of the shorter fences on the circuit, she does need to sometimes find a way to buy herself a bit of time. And she does need to gain, maybe a fraction of a second where she can get in before her opponent can react. She's extremely successful fencer abroad, Danny Lawson, particularly on the junior circuit.
So closing 20 seconds of the second period, Mary Cohen eking out that 2-hit lead again. And
she's looking really strong. I think what she's created is that because Danny really wants to go over the top and she wants to score as soon as Mary's finished, she wants to go, because that's when the distance collapses to something that Mary can use. She's looking to go almost every time, and because of that, Mary's able to take it over, and she's got much stronger blade work, and she's much physically stronger than Danny, so she's being able to get on the blade quite a lot. Now, what I would like to see John Reese talking with her about now is I want him to talk about interrupting Mary's setup, because Mary's being given the freedom to set the hits up how she wants, so she's being given a lot of freedom to just push forward with these little short attacks, little short fake attacks around the wrist, and she's just not really being punished on them. I'd like to see, like Danny did earlier, where she went early beat and then went in, I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Just causes Mary a little bit of doubt in her setup.
Well, if you look at Kat Smith there on the right, talking with Mary Cohen, the two ladies very, very close, good friends, compete on the international circuit together, and you can see the intensity of the conversation, but it seems to be very, very relaxed. Mary's laughing, and this is a gold medal match, Rob.
I think it's one of the things I've seen watch Mary fencing abroad, is that she does always look very relaxed. Even when the scores are tight, or maybe it's going into final period of a DE or something like that, she does always seem to have a smile on her face. She does always seem to be enjoying herself, and I think it's probably one of the things that has helped her fence fence at this level for as long as she has.
No mean feat for Mary Cohen as well. She's a doctor, believe it or not, so she's had to go through medical school. That's tough all on its own, and competing on the international circuit for Great Britain, as does Danny Lawson, but going through a medical degree and now practicing as a doctor up in the northwest, I believe.
Yeah, and Danny Lawson's at Nottingham Trent Uni as well, so she's sort of made that transition from being a young athlete who's training in a home environment to moving away from home and having to work out a new training environment away from what you're used to. Danny's really, really looking for this attack after Mary stops, and she's trying
attacking for too far, really?
Exactly,
yeah.
Yes, exactly, I agree with you. And we don't agree very often, do we, Karen?
Well, we try not to. Apparently it's our thing. No, but just attacking from too far out of distance there, and Cohen was it was very simple for Cohen to step away, take the circular parry, and she had control of the blade, and then from there it was the momentum Lawson had going forward, she couldn't stop, and she almost sort of put her body onto the blade of Cohen, but she forces her way through there, and at 9-11 she's not out of this.
No, she's not out of it at all. I think for me the problem I would have if I was in Danny's shoes now is she hasn't got a get out of jail free hit. She hasn't got a hit which she knows that she can go back to, that she knows that she can work to try and set up. She hasn't been able to score anything reliably. Whereas Mary's always, I feel like she'll know from that second period that she's always got that parry riposte in her back pocket. So if things get tight, if Danny gets the next hit, then she can score. And actually, now, Mary's not too worried about having to score. She's got these 2-hit leads, and she's just seems to be just going in. As soon as she sees Danny commit, she's just going to go into it.
Well, this is what we were talking about earlier on. You were saying the two schools of thought about the doubles and doubling it out, in inverted commas. but Cohen can afford to do that. And, you know, look, that's not the fullest of hearty attacks there from Cohen, but she was going forwards. It was her attack.
Yeah, definitely.
And she squeezed a double out. That she's one away from the national title, steps into distance there. That's a lovely, lovely hit from Danny Lawson, capitalising on a minor lapse of concentration from Cohen there.
I agree, and I think it looked like Mary was trying to take the parry, and actually she probably would have been better off just sticking her arm out and driving into it, looking for a double. At this stage, I think she was just looking to finish with a single light.
Well, she's settled back down again, hasn't she, Cohen?
And if you look, there's a little attacks coming forward again, so it looks like she's trying to set up that parry riposte to finish.
In close distance.
Nice hit.
Referee's going to give that, and there it is. Our national champion in women's epee, Mary Cohen. 15-13. Congratulations to Danny Lawson, but Mary Cohen is our national champion. And congratulations to her. Rob, what a cracker.
It was good and it was nice. It's a real mature performance from Mary. It's sort of what you'd expect from a competitor like her, where she knows what her game is and she knows what she's good at. And she just worked out what she needed to do to tune that in to the person that was in front of her. So setting off of those short attacks and then scoring with parry riposte after parry riposte after parry riposte. It was really strong.
Yeah, lovely stuff there. Mary Cohen confirmed as our national champion 2018. Not long to go now, though, Rob. We are moving on to men's foil. So in just a couple of minutes, we'll be handing over to our stadium announcer.
It's all good fun.
Well, here we go. It's time for the second gold medal match here at Sports Dock at the University of East London. And I'm going to hand over to our stadium announcer, the beautiful John Milner.
Ladies and gentlemen, our second final of the day is the men's foil event. Representing ZFW Fencing Club, Richard Cruz. And representing Sal Holyrood, Keith Cook. Our referee is Dan Hazelwood. And we have assessors Chris Lennon and Adrian Speakman. So photograph over. Could we start, please?
So here we go. The gold medal match of the British Championships in men's foil. Richard Cruz on your right from ZFW Fencing Club up against Keith Cook from Sal Holyrood, the Scottish fencer. Scotland had a good day yesterday. Edinburgh Fencing Club picking up 2 of the national titles. Will they make it 3 here? Not so sure. I think everyone's favourite here today is Richard Cruz. I'm Karen Basher, and joining me for this final, Rob Caudron. What do you reckon here?
For a change, I'm not going to disagree with you, Karen. I think it's last year's champion, Richard, probably very much favourite to take this. He is so experienced. He is so successful at all levels of competition. I think Keith Cook has had a very good day and fenced extremely well all the way through. But I think Richard probably edges this as favourite for me.
Well, if you look back through the draw as well, Richard, I have to say, up against a talented young man, Kamal Minot from Newham Swords, he kind of won that at a little bit of a canter, you have to say. Whereas Keith had to grind out a victory against Matt Billing from South Boston. Billing suffering from a bit of cramp in that semi-finals. But it was a harder fight for Cook. Certainly more energy expended in that fight. And if you look at Cruz's progress before that, he had to come through James Andrew Davis, his clubmate, in the quarterfinals. That quarterfinal was the makings of a gold medal match, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think last year they met at a similar stage as well, didn't they?
I think it might have been the 8 as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's always destined never to quite meet in the showpiece event. I think Richard won't be too stressed at the moment. Okay, he's 2-0 down. Cook scored with 2 counterattacks, but I don't see that as being particularly stressful. Keith is going to score with hits, and he's going to score with exciting, flamboyant hits, like ducking counterattacks, like big jump flick parries. That's going to be what he's scoring with. Richard, I think, is going to try and put in quite a disciplined, professional performance and just line himself up. So those first 2 attacks, just trying to get his distance in, trying to get his eye in. He's not quite there yet, but let's see how the match plays out. I think one thing to say, actually, you talked about Richard's semi-final with Kamal. Did you watch the fight?
I did, of course, yeah.
I think it was really interesting how it was. I think it was about 4-all at one stage, wasn't it? And then Richard just slowly cranked up, and soon he was out of sight. It's always impressive the way the real top performers can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, if you're new to fencing or you need a little prepper on the rules, foil is a point weapon. You've got to hit your opponent with the tip of your sword. Target area is the torso, and that's covered by what we call a lame jacket, the silvery jacket that they're wearing. So the target area, the valid target area, is everything apart from the arms, legs, and head. The referee is there to decide who the attacking fencer is, because foil is what we call a weapon of convention. So one of the fencers has the right to attack. If you're being attacked, you've got to defend yourself either by blocking with your blade or running away and making your opponent miss.
I think one of the things that I've watched Richard, most of what I've watched of Richard, to be honest, has been video from the Grand Prix, the World Cup. You've seen him a lot more live than I have. And whenever I've watched him on video, one of the things I've always really liked is just how much he uses both back lines. He defends all the way to his back line, and he attacks all the way to his opponent's back line. And his opponents know that, so they know that when they're attacking, they're going to have to go the whole length of the piste. And when they're defending, they're going to have to go, he's going to drive them the whole length of the piste. And so, consequently, I feel like he gets a lot of points around the middle area of the piste because his opponents just don't want to go back all the way. Like there, Richard will just happily drive you down the piste and then let it go.
Yeah,
and that's
looking
fine.
For a stop hit there, but Cook's attack was the one that had the right of way. It was his turn to attack, and he hit off target, so no point there. But yeah, you're right. The full length of the piste is something that Richard Cruz is a master of, known on the international circuit as a sort of tactical master by all the top fencers. He's beaten everybody at the top of the world rankings. I think he's still ranked number 4 in the world internationally as well, so still right up there, and definitely going for qualification for the Tokyo Olympic Games in 2020. And you know what? At the moment, odds on that he will qualify.
Yeah. And if you're watching this fight now, so Keith has scored all 3 of his points with counterattacks. And the reason he scored them, Richard's just been getting a little bit too close before he's finishing his attack. Almost all of Richard's attacks now, he's been starting that lunge from a little bit further out, and it's been dropping short. But his defensive game and his counter-offensive game is so strong that he doesn't mind his attack missing. And he's just going to keep dropping that attack short until the time that Keith does counter-attack, and the distance is going to be perfect for Richard. So let's see there, he just goes from slightly further out. He gives himself a margin of error.
Yeah.
And just drops the attack short. If Keith parries it, no problem. No problem. And there again, he doesn't mind his attack missing because he backs himself so much on his defense. And he just skips out the way and he's going to build again. And at some point, there we go.
Lovely.
Keith's going to counterattack.
He's listening to you, Rob.
Nice.
No, you're right. You're
nice
right.
that
It's,
someone does.
it's absolutely perfect. Your description is wonderful because what you're talking about is the fight craft of foot on the piece. You can't get a hit in a second. You've got to build it. You've got to work on it, and maybe it's going to take 2 or 3 phases to get there.
Phases is exactly sort of the word that I like to use because it really describes it nicely. I was talking to a coach when we were out at the Junior Worlds, and he talked about building a point in phases exactly like this, where you'll push someone up the piste, and if it's not on, that's fine. You drop it. You drop your attack short, but you're balanced and you're ready to go. And then you work all the way back, and then you build again, and then you work all the way back, and you keep going until you get the mistake that you want. And as soon as your opponent knows that you're happy doing that, it becomes so much harder because they know that you're going to work for that whole 9 minutes, and you're going to go up and down, up and down, up and down, and physically it's exhausting.
Yeah, but we talk about Richard. We come into our first minute break, and it's Keith Cook who's got the lead. Look, we're talking waxing lyric about Richard. It's very easy to do for the world number 4, but Keith is a huge talent and a very dedicated, hard-working athlete who is in this final by merit, and he's in the lead.
Keith is I mean, what's really good about Keith is such a high-energy fencer. You know, he works up and down the piste. He fences very fast, and he fences really flamboyant. He loves big parry passes. He's got a huge range of hits, and he can create, make them happen in all sorts of interesting and creative ways. And he's one that he really plays to the crowd. So if he starts to get on a roll, he's one of these momentum fencers, where if he starts to get on a roll and gets 2 or 3 hits, starts feeling confident, he feels like he can score against anyone in any number of ways. I watched him up at the Commonwealths in 2014 in Largs, and obviously it's in front of a big Scottish crowd. And when he was fencing, particularly in the teams, and the Scottish crowd behind him, it looked like he could do whatever he wanted.
Well, we're back underway here. Second period of the gold medal match in the men's foil here at the British Championships 2018 at Sports Dock. Keith Cook on your left, Richard Cruz on your right. Second period of potentially 3, and gotta say, Cruz looks like he's slightly up the pace.
Yeah, he's driving him down the piste. I agree with you. He's driving Keith down the piste just a little bit quicker. That's nice. Real classic Richard Cruz. That stop hit is...
Yeah, trademark, isn't it? He's absolutely stunning how he gets away with so many of them.
Yeah, what I'd like to see, so I'm concentrating a little bit on what Keith's doing about Richard's attack. So he's triggered it the last probably half a dozen times. He's triggered it and gone for a parry. And what I'm going to be interested to see is at what point does Richard change and go indirect? Because he's anticipating the parry. Looked like he tried to go for it a bit there and maybe got a bit too close. But Keith's showing now that he's not really looking for that counter-attack. He's looking much more to parry. So he's changed up his tactics. Is Richard going to adapt? And then what's Keith going to do about it next?
Well, the last hit for Cook was
nice.
A bit of a gimme. That certainly wasn't. That was a beautifully timed, well-worked attack from Keith Cook. Well-deserved 2-hit lead here for the Scottish fencer. In fact, both these fencers are aligned to the thistle, the Scottish flag. Hit given for Cruz there. I think Cook was contemplating having a little chat with the referee. Had Cruz gone past, decided not to go for that. So Cruz closes to within 1 here in this men's foil gold medal match, and very intriguing. Not the runaway that we thought it might be with Richard Cruz, and that's because Keith Cook is keeping him honest here. But another beautiful stop hit from Richard Cruz.
I think all of Keith's hits, he scored 2 right at the start of points where they both stepped in and Keith found the blade early and then gone, and then his 3 counterattacks as well. They've all been scored when distance has been close. Keith wants that distance to be close where he can find the blade or where he can counterattack, and that's where he can really start to scrap and make it a very difficult encounter. And obviously it favours, there's a difference in height. I have a huge amount of sympathy for Keith in that respect. So that closer distance definitely favours him, but he's got to do the work to get it close first. It's a real distance game at the moment. They're both playing to try and get it close. And there, Keith goes on the blade, doesn't do anything, but then goes on the blade again, and that's how he's closing the distance. He's closing the distance in a sort of almost a second intention kind of way.
But parry riposte given for Richard Cruz off target. And another stop hit. And if you attack from that far, Mr. Cook, that far out, then you know Richard Cruz is going to pick you off with the stop hit. You know that. And he does know that, Rob, doesn't he? It's a, I don't want to call it a lapse of concentration, but just a sort of a minor tactical error there from Keith Cook affording Cruz the lead.
I think it's one of those things when you've got a fencer who really uses all of the piste, and not just like the 14 meters backline to backline, but goes, you know, the full 2 meters that they can behind with their foot on the line and the other side. You feel like you have to try that bit harder to score the points. You feel like you have to do that little bit more.
It's an interesting point, that, actually, because I mean, the piste lines are marked at 14 meters apart, but in effect, the piste is what, 15 and a half meters long? Because as long as you've got your front foot still on the piste, you're still in play.
Yeah, I think when I talk to fencers that we're working with, we say the piste isn't 14 meters long. We say it's 18, because with a sort of an adult leg length and really stretching out, going full from toe on the back line all the way out, it's probably an extra 2 meters either side. So when you're talking about, and particularly with Sabre, you're talking about finishing attacks, you've got to be prepared to finish not 14 meters, you've got to be prepared to finish 2 meters behind the back line as well.
Yeah. Well, look, we're finished here in the second period. It's 7-6 to Richard Cruz. He just, if you like, has the momentum with him at the moment. But Keith Cook has fenced absolutely superbly in this match.
So far, I think one of the things that's interesting is the way where, you know, the sort of almost the action areas on the piste that things are happening. So in the first period, if we looked at where the hits were happening and where the action was, it was very much end to end. It was all down to Richard's end, then all down to Keith's end, and then back again. What was changed for me a little bit in this second period is that everything was happening a little bit more down Keith's end. Now, you talked about, Karim, you talked about Richard was upping the pace, and I agree with you. Richard was upping the pace, and he was starting to push more onto Keith. But what Keith was doing is he's starting his attacks. He's tried that sort of broken time flash a couple of times and been punished for it. But both of them, he started them around Richard's on guard line. What's not happening in this period is that Keith is not pushing Richard right down to the end before he's doing something. And I think he needs to really look to build his points much further down the piste. That's when he's maybe going to create opportunities for that kind of broken time flash, because the distance will start to collapse as we get towards the back line.
Well, here we go. Third period, men's foil gold medal match. Richard Cruz from ZFW Fencing Club on your right. Keith Cook from Sal Holyrood on your left. Scotland versus Scotland.
Nice hit.
Lovely attack there.
But again, look at that first sort of 15 seconds was all from Richard's on guard line really up until Keith's warning line. None of it was happening in Richard's half of the piece. Now Keith has got to look to do this a bit more. He's got to look to get Richard into his half. I know he's strong there, but that's not far enough. If you're going to push someone down the piece, you've got to push them all the way down. You've got to get them into their warning area where it might be difficult.
Well, another stop hit from Cruz. What, that's 4 in this fight so far, Rob?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're going to give the master of the stop hit the opportunity to get those stop hits, then he's going to take them, right?
Okay, that's much better from Keith, because actually he built that attack. It's the first one of those kind of attacks that he's launched from inside Richard's half of the piece, where Richard's towards the back. And you saw that Richard wasn't quite as confident there. He was on his back foot. His weight was back. He wasn't quite as ready and as balanced as he is when he's here between warning and on guard line. And again, it's too far. Not enough pressure down the piste. There's always a little mentality shift as soon as you start, really, as soon as you get past your own warning line, you stop thinking quite so much about how you're going to score a hit, and you start thinking more about defending yourself and not going off the back. And it's that mentality shift that you can capitalize on if you're a strong, aggressive fencer.
Well, and what's interesting is that the momentum shift at this stage in the final period of a gold medal match you know, Cruz has been here 100 times. To be fair, so has Keith.
Better.
Keith Cook. But when you get the wind in your sails, as Richard Cruz has got here now, I'm not sure there's anything that Keith Cook can do to get upwind, if you like.
Yeah, it's wind in the sails, but I think it's also constructing the points and constructing the fight from the first period. Yeah, like we said, he got hit 3 times or so in the first period, but it almost didn't matter because it kind of suited the narrative that Richard was creating for the fight.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You're saying Richard's creating the narrative. He's the one that's controlling the fight. But Keith Cook was in this all the way through until the last minute and a half.
No, Keith's not moving as freely as well either. If you look when he's building, it looks like it's harder work for him to press now. It's harder work for him to push forward.
Still fighting though, and still his attack off target. And I think maybe you're right, Rob. The movement has gone down a little bit, but let's face it, he had a tough semi-final.
Nice idea.
Keith Cook.
All right, there's that counter-attack again, but look where it's happening on the piece. This is the time now. He's driven Richard to the back, and Richard made him miss halfway between warning line and back line. So it's a different mentality building your attack from there than it is building it from between on-guard line and warning. You know, you feel a little bit tenser, you feel a little bit more under pressure, you're more likely to make a little distance mistake that can be capitalized on with a counter-attack.
And the problem here is now that we're down to a minute of fencing left, and Keith hasn't got the time to build the attacks here that he needs. And Cruz can just ride this out with a 5-hit advantage, 2 away from the target score. I think we are going to see Richard Cruz lift his 6th British title here today.
I think you used the word right at the start of this fight. You talked about fightcraft, and there's a lot of talk that happens in fencing matches about your tactics and how you're going to build this hit, what you're going to do to build this hit, what you're going to do to build the next hit.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, Rob. But did you see that? I think that hit was Richard Cruz's, right? It's simple as that. Richard Cruz said, "Yeah, I was a bit messy. I don't want to win the national title on that one." Dan Hazelwood, the referee, thought that he was conceding the hit and tried to give Keith Cook the hit.
Well,
and Keith said, "It wasn't my hit. I don't want it either." So we've stayed at 14-9, I think.
I think we were actually on 8, so I think actually Keith has managed to get this one.
He's taken that one, has he? I think Keith knew himself that wasn't his. Oh well. But Richard wants to win on a simple one.
So going back to what I was saying, you talk about building hits and maybe, you know, how are we going to build this hit? And we look at hits as like a singular thing on its own. One of the discussions that doesn't happen quite as much is how we're going to build a whole fight. And what's your sort of vision for how the fight's going to go? How are you willing to concede hits, knowing how you're going to finish it off at the end of the fight? I think that's a really interesting area of conversation. Nice hit.
Yeah, a little bit of a remise there. Sneaky. But very well executed into the low line there. 10-14, Cruz, 1 away from national title number 6 for him.
So actually, what's interesting now is that Keith's, I don't know, maybe he's feeling like he can just go for it a bit, but he's moving a lot freer. You can see he's skipping around again. He's moving down. He's nice.
Beautiful, beautiful para riposte there on the shoulder. Richard Cruz is the men's foil national champion, British fencing champion, 2018. A brilliant fight from Keith Cook, his countryman, but all to naught. Richard Cruz confirmed national champion 2018. Brilliant fight.
I think so much of it was about looking at what you said at the start, the fight craft of Richard Cruz, where this was a really close fight right up until the start of the 3rd period. And then everything just fell into place for Richard's plan, and he was able to accelerate away, score those final few, and score the hits that he'd set up in the 1st period.
Yeah, well, he did it. He did it well. It's his 6th title. Richard Cruz is the national champion. No time to rest on our laurels, though. Over to the silver-tongued John Milner very shortly for a presentation of our final gold medal match here at Sportsdoc UEL. Don't go far, we'll be back very soon.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached our final of the weekend. The Women's Sabre event. Representing Camden Fencing Club, Alia Ichkovitz. And representing Truro Fencing Club, Caitlin Maxwell. And the referee, Mike Selig. So with the photos taken, let the fencing begin.
Well, here we go. The Women's Sabre gold medal match at the British Fencing Championships 2018. I'm Karen Bashan. It's my great pleasure to be bringing you live coverage from these gold medal matches, and an even bigger pleasure to introduce you to heavyweight Sabre expert Rob Cordron. Rob, two stellar fencers here on for this gold medal match.
So I'm really looking forward to this one. Katie Maxwell has been really strong in the sort of national championship scene for a number of years at junior, senior, cadet, and senior level. I think she won I think she's won the seniors for the last 2 years. Now, and she's still a junior. You know, she's still got another year as a junior fencer. Now, Ali is an interesting one because she's been away in the US. I think she's been at Harvard and training and competing there. Been competing on the Senior World Cup circuit. She's made top 32s. She's made some really strong performances. But this is the first time we've seen her back at the Nationals for a number of years. And she's been really strong all day. So I'm really looking forward to this one. Katie, really strong technical fencer out of the Truro powerhouse. Very strong technical game all over the piste. Alia, when she was around in the UK, I wasn't really around all that much, so I never really saw her when she was training and competing in the UK. So I've been really interested to watch her all today. I'm interested here because I think this is the first time that she's really run into someone who can test her.
Yeah, it came through Jennifer Sandcroft of Sandcroft Blades in the quarterfinals, and then took out Bridget Pleasant 15-5 in the semi-finals. Maxwell came through Jessica Corby of Sal Ossian, another strong showing from the Scots here in the Sabre, and then beat Sarah Jane Hampson 15-5 in the semi-finals. So both Ichkovitz and Maxwell sort of cruised through their semi-finals. So it's a big test for both of them.
It is, and I think early doors, what you've seen is almost every single point, with the exception of maybe the first one, Maxwell's gone in and she's looked to defend. So she's making a statement here, which is that she's confident. If she's looking to defend this much off the line, she's very, very confident. All right, so she gets hit on that one, no problem. But every single one, when she's gone in, she's getting looked to get, we talked about it in the foil, she's looked to get towards her back line. And as soon as you do that, you make your opponent have to push their attack that little bit harder. You make them have to take an extra step. You make it difficult, and you open up the opportunity to score in the middle. So far, really smart from Katie Maxwell. Now, part of this might also be that one of the things that Alia is well known for is that she's got a very strong defensive game. And as soon as you don't attack her off the line, you negate it. You completely take it away from her. Again, look at where Katie Maxwell finishes that. She's showing a real commitment to move, and then she's getting a look at the strongest weapon in Sabre, which is the long attack, where you're able to build and push down the piste. If you get a look at one of these, you should be converting 80% plus. And there, both stop, but Katie's feeling confident, and she just goes. So far, this has been a fantastic fight from Katie Maxwell. She's looking really confident.
Really good. Well, if you're new to the sport or need a little bit of a reviser on the rules, Sabre is the only cutting weapon. That means you can hit the point and the side of the blade. The target area is everything above the waist, and like foil, it's a weapon of convention, so the referee decides who the attacking fencer is, and the other fencer has to defend themselves either by running away and making the opponent miss, or using their blade to block out. Now, as you said, Rob, Katie Maxwell is playing a blinder.
I think it's very much part of a strategy from her. She's going to open out the piece. I talked at the start and I said she's got a real good technical variety. She's got very good parry. She's got very good at finding the blade. She's got a good counterattack, and she moves very, very well. She's a real fluent mover on the piece. Her long attack is strong, particularly if she's able to start it on her terms. But what she's making Alia do is she's making Alia attacker. And she's making her drive forward, but she's making her do it from the middle, and it's a really hard attack to do. That start from play and just push all the way down. It's a very difficult attack to land. I think it's one of the hardest hits to do in Sabre at the moment, because you're so worried about maybe getting hit on preparation, you're worried about falling short. There's a lot of unknowns that you have to deal with. I always feel it's a much better opportunity to drop them short first, parry them first, and then go.
Well, we're back underway here. Katie Maxwell on the defence there, unable to find the blade. Alia Iskovets scores first in the second period. Only one break in Sabre, because it's so fast scoring. When the first fencer gets to 8 points, the referee calls halt and lets them go and have their minute break. Little hesitation there from Iskovets. And Maxwell straight out of the blocks.
It's not just hesitation. There's so much that that Alia's having to worry about on her attack. She's having to worry about the attack on preparation. She's having to worry about the parry. She's having to worry about all sorts of things. And that means that she's just slowing down off the line. And what's happened here is Maxwell has just flipped it. So she spent most of the first half defend. Alia's now having to try so much more on her attack. Alia's having to try so much more on her attack that she's having to push it. If you look, though, for this second half, most of this second half now, Maxwell's attacked. Because she's making Alia have to do more, and she'll go much more attacking.
What I can tell you is in this second period, the last 2 hits that have been given have been contested by the opposing coach. Ian Williams on the right-hand side, not happy with one hit, and then John Southfield at the other end, not happy with the following hit. So if you like, one apiece. But
they've been contested, but I think they've both been fair. Particularly the attack for Katie, I saw that as from up here. That looked very, very clear. I think there was another one that was called into the guard. Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't find that worth contesting.
Maxwell, though, steadies the ship after a little mini revival there from Iskovets, and Iskovets back within 2. And you've got to say that where Maxwell was hitting around the outside, the left-hander coming around the outside of the right-hander, like she did just there, Iskovets has got a couple back in this second period, but Katie Maxwell 2 away from a hat-trick.
Yeah, just much more attacking in the second half. And yeah, so it's been, was it 6-5 in this? Yeah, really strong performance from Katie Maxwell.
Well, there you go. A beautiful parry pass for Katie Maxwell. Caitlin Maxwell from Truro Fencing Club is the 2018 Women's Sabre National Champion. What a cracking result from her, 3rd in a row.
It was excellent performance from Katie. And for me, that's probably one of the best performances she's put in a final, because of the way that she built it. We talked about fightcraft in the men's foil, and this was exactly the same in the women's sabre, where she's used the first half to set up the second half. She started being very, very defensive, taking Alia's attack away from her, make her have to take the extra step, make her have to go a bit deeper in the middle, and then immediately switched in the second half, much more attacking, using the mistakes which she knows that she's created, and using the opportunities which she knows she's created to get on the front foot and score attack after attack after attack. Really well-constructed fight from Katie Maxwell.
Well, brilliant there. Katie Maxwell confirmed as the national champion. That's the last of the action here from Sports Doc at the University of East London, but we will bring you the medal ceremonies very shortly. So what I'll do right now is say thank you very much, Rob Cauldron.
Cheers, Karen. Thanks for having me again, mate.
So there you go, Rob, who's been calling as our expert here in the commentary box. But we have a very, very special guest in the box here before we go to the medal presentations. Well, I'm going to give our guest a little chance to mop his brow and take a sip of water. But here he is, 6 times national champion, Richard Cruz. Look at your fans, Richard.
Hello.
Richard, congratulations. Well done, mate.
Thanks very much.
Great performance today as well. Tough quarter-final.
Actually, the last 3 were very tough. I drew James Davis in the last 8 because he dropped a match in the pool, which was quite a surprise. I know he's had a problem with his ankle, so I got him quite early. And it was a good match. And then I had Kamal Manute, who's a very strong athlete, trains very hard. To be honest, I often lose to him in training, but in competition, I decided to really push him a bit harder. If I'm a bit too passive, he's a very strong guy, very dominant. And then Keith Cook in the final, it was a real game of chess. I realised I couldn't attack him. Every time I attacked him, he closed me out. But he does it in a very clever way. It's very deceptive. It makes you think you've just got him and you've just missed. But it's obviously his skill. So I had to wait for him. And then as soon as I went 1 up, when I was 7-6 up, I thought, right, I'm just going to wait for him now. And then it was my game all the way in.
Yeah, it kind of turned it around in that
stop
period,
hits, counter-attacks. I did the same stuff to him that he was trying to do to me.
Well, the Richard Cruz came out a few times, the old stop hit, run away.
Yeah, you've got to use it sometimes.
Oh, I'd love to see it, love to see it. Listen, Richard, number 4 in the world rankings. Still got it. You're an old man now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 34.
Married?
Married, yeah.
Got kids coming?
She wants them.
Live on air?
Yeah.
No, but I mean, really going good guns the last 12 months on the international stage.
When 2020 comes around, I'm definitely done. I mean, that really isn't it now. I've got to move on with my life.
Did you say that in 2016?
I said that a lot actually, but I think this is a definite now. So I'm just going to give it everything I've got for the last 2 and a bit years, and hopefully enjoy it. And I think when you're enjoying it, you actually do pretty well.
Yeah. But what does it look? 6th national title here. What does it mean?
I think it's a good title to win once. I'm not going to make a point and try and win it 15 times.
No.
I'm always looking for bigger things like a European title or a World Cup win. For me, it's a day of training, and it's a day of good training.
Well, it's a perfect training if you get every single fight out of the way, and
6
win them
matches.
all.
Yeah, 6 matches in the pool, 6 matches to 15. That's a good day's training, I think, because of course we're building up for St. Petersburg, which I'm going there visa-free this year.
What?
You know, if you go on the boat, you get 3 days visa-free.
So what? You're going into Estonia or somewhere first?
I'm going to Finland first on Norwegian, very cheap, and then I'm going on the boat with Jamek. You go to bed and then you get there the next morning, 12 hours later.
I'm aware how a boat works.
But you have to be top 16 to do it because it gets there as the pools have started. So
right. Right.
And if you miss the boat on the way back, then you're in a lot of trouble.
Amazing. But I never thought that we'd get that out of you. Look, number 4 in the world, St. Petersburg coming up. Of course, you've got the European Championships and the World Championships as well. So still a few weeks to go for this season.
We've got 4 more major tournaments, haven't we? We've got St. Petersburg, Shanghai, and then the 2 championships, the European champs in Serbia, and then the world champs in China, and then I'm off to Thailand.
What holiday?
Training camp holiday with my friend Mr. Non Panchan. He's invited me back, so it's all happening.
Well, listen, it's a pleasure for having you here, and thank you so much for coming up. I do want to say one thing to you, Richard Cruz.
Yep.
We need to get you a sponsor, don't we?
To be honest, I'm doing quite well.
But we need to find you a title sponsor, perhaps Wilkinson's Sword.
To be honest, Bash, honestly, I've got plenty now. Leon Paul have stepped up to the plate, and I'm actually starting work tomorrow at Sabre, and they're giving me a bit extra sponsorship. And I've had a few other private donations, so I'm laughing. I've got nothing to worry about. But
well, that's fantastic news, and well done to Leon Paul and Sal Paul for supporting what is a brilliant cause. And best of luck in Shanghai, St. Petersburg.
Cheers.
European Championships, World Championships.
Will we be seeing you there commentating as well, Bash?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Not Shanghai, but we never know later on in the season. But obviously we all wish you luck, and congratulations 6 times national champion Richard Cruz.
Cheers.
So there you go, Richard Cruz blessing us with 5 minutes of his time, 6 times national champion. Coming up very, very soon will be the medal ceremonies. They're not too far away, so don't go too far yourselves. Well, just like that, we're back for the medal ceremony, and it's the turn of the women's epeists here at Sports Dock University of East London. We've had our final 3 gold medal matches here today. And first up was indeed women's epee. And Georgina Usher, the chief executive of British Fencing, is lined up with a representative from UK Sport who's here today. So our bronze medalist, Madeline Lee and Julie Henson there. Losing semi-finalists both get bronze medals. Our silver medalist, Danielle Lawson. From Malvern Hills Sword Fencing Club. But here she is, our national champion 2018. Fencing unattached at the moment, not attached to a club. It's Mary Cohen. And congratulations to all of our medalists, but especially our national champion. Oh wow, look, I get a cup as well. There she is, Mary Cohen, getting her trophy. Sporting handshakes all around there. Photo opportunity as well. But there they are. Mary Cohen confirmed as the national champion for 2018. Well, a little minor pause there as the crowd were wondering what was going on. I think there were a few photographs being taken, and I think they were trying to find one of the men's foilists. But here they come, our medalists here in the men's foil tournament. Cracking day for all 4, but especially for Richard Cruz, 6 times national champion. So here we go, our bronze medalists. Kamal Minot from Newham Swords and Matt Billing from Sal Boston. Presented with their medals by, excuse me, I said UK Sport completely wrong me, BOA representative Elaine Skilton. And our silver medalist, Keith Cook, brilliantly fenced all day today. Just slightly undone in that gold medal match by the master. the face of British fencing for the last 10 years, nearly destroys the podium on his way up in his excitement. It's 6 times British champion Richard Cruz from ZFW Fencing Club. And what a master of foil Richard Cruz is. World number 4, but let's forget that. He's the British champion. Brilliant trophy, that, isn't it? I mean, what a remarkable time for Richard Cruz, picking up his 6th tournament. Look, he refers to it, I'm sure with some element of tongue in his cheek, as a day of training. Look, you know, he, unfortunately for the rest of the field, he is that good that he can treat the national championships like a training day. But, you know, I think you saw on film, he doesn't need to be here. He certainly doesn't need to be here, but he came here and he said he's not going for 15 titles, he doesn't want a record or anything like that. But Richard Cruz is something to behold, and he is now the proud boaster of 6 national titles. And we do wish him luck as he heads off to compete in the last couple of competitions, St. Petersburg and the Shanghai Grand Prix, before going off to represent the country at the Senior European Championships in Novi Sad, Serbia, and then the World Championships in Wuxi. Don't go far though, because we've got one more medal presentation, and that's for the women's sabreurs. Well, just like that, they're underway. We've got things rolling on nice and smoothly this year here at Sports Dock, University of East London. The athletes coming out onto the field of play for the final presentation of the medals. And this time it's the turn of the fencers in the women's sabre discipline. Again, Chief Executive of British Fencing, Georgina Usher, will present the medals with Elaine Skilton of the British Olympic Association. And here comes Georgina Usher to present our bronze medalists, Bridget Pleasant and Sarah Jane Hampson. Pleasant of Camden Fencing Club and Hampson of South Ossian Fencing Club. Our silver medalist from Camden Fencing Club, Alia Itzkovitz, based in New York. But it's a hat trick 3 times in a row from Truro Fencing Club, the powerhouse of sabre currently. It's Caitlin Maxwell. Well, a photo call all round here for these ladies. Brilliant fencing for 2 days here at the University of East London, and a fantastic Sports Dock arena. It's been a pleasure to bring you live coverage. My thanks go to Rob Caudron. I'm Karen Bashir. See you around sometime soon.